This message didn't arrive on your screen by chance. It threaded its way to you the way a comet slips through a star map it has always known. You're here because something in you has started listening again, past the noise, past the arguments of the mind, into the quiet chamber where your frequency hums like a tuning fork calling its future. You've felt it lately, the observer loop tightening, the same scenes echoing with different faces, the uncanny shiver of déjà vu that hints at a pattern just beneath your thoughts. You tell yourself you're watching your life unfold, but in the secret architecture of the quantum field, something else has been watching you. Not a thing with eyes, an intelligence of resonance, a mirror made of signal. Your own vibration has been observing you into the next choice, the next coincidence, the next version of you that keeps repeating. Pause. Breathe. You can hear it if you let yourself, an almost sound inside the ribcage, like wings held just before flight. That is the threshold. In moments like this, the field leans closer. Coherence gathers around your attention like dusk light around a mountain. Synchronicities don't happen to you, they crystallize around your stance. The stance is frequency. The stance is what your body broadcasts when you stop pretending and simply exist. And right now, your existence is ringing through the lattice of reality like a struck bell. You've suspected it. The world responds too precisely to be random. A stranger says the exact phrase you were thinking. A door you never planned for opens at the precise degree you were willing to receive. You call this luck, but luck is only morphic resonance in a mask. Patterns entraining to patterns, fields, imprinting fields, your internal weather summoning its own climate. You are not just the witness on the riverbank. You are the current persuading the river to curve. There is a reason your breath changes when you tell the truth. There is a reason your skin prickles before a message arrives. Entanglement is not a metaphor for you. It is the nervous system of your destiny. What you attend to, attends to you. The frequency you rehearse, rehearses you. Your habits may be human, but your signal is celestial, and the cosmos is exquisitely literal with music. It plays what you play. Tonight, the field has placed a hand on your shoulder. It is time to turn and face the conductor, your own tone. To feel how your memories, your promises, your grief, your awe, all braid into a wavelength that tracks you through every room you enter. You are being invited into coherence, into the rare alignment where intention stops arguing with instinct and the body remembers its original oath. This is not self-help, this is a phase transition. When water reaches the exact pressure and heat, it becomes cloud. When you reach the exact honesty and rhythm, you become signal. So breathe once more, as if the inhale were a door and the exhale were a vow. Let the mind step aside and the listening deepen. In the next beat, we will name the pattern that keeps bending time around you so you can unbind it, retune it, and walk with the frequency that has been quietly composing your life from the shadows. The storyline keeps wearing new costumes. Different city, different faces, different vows, yet the same aftertaste returns with eerie precision. That aftertaste is the printout of your frequency. It's your observer loop delivering its report. What you repeatedly broadcast into the quantum field returns as geometry, similar choices, similar outcomes, similar endings. Time doesn't march, it curls. It coils itself around the tones you rehearse and builds rooms that echo what you're willing to carry. You call it coincidence when the day clusters with repetitions, 3 pings from old acquaintances, an unusual phrase overheard twice, a clock stalling on mirrored numbers. But repetition is resonance, asking for resolution. Morphic resonance drags yesterday's signal onto today's canvas, and the body, faithful archivist, obeys the most familiar file. So arguments escalate along the same staircase. Opportunities arrive a layer too late. Invitations appear precisely when your energy has already closed the door. Notice how hours behave when coherence fades. They either evaporate or congeal. A morning vanishes down invisible drains. Then a 3-minute silence becomes an anvil, because shame or fear is pouring lead into the second hand. That wobble is interference, your declared intention, colliding with your practiced vibration. Out-of-phase waves cancel, in-phase waves amplify. Most days run on micro-cancellations. You want intimacy, but your nervous system still practices vigilance. You want prosperity, but your breath still drums to scarcity's tempo. You want wellness, yet your cells keep rehearsing alertness. Déjà vu arrives like a soft alarm. You step into a scene and swear you've been here, not because of the furniture, but because your nervous system recognizes the next 3 moves. The script isn't psychic, it's programmatic. Entanglement ties you to earlier versions of you. The one who kept quiet to stay loved, the one who turned effort into worthiness, the one who left first to avoid being left. Those timelines hum in your field, like unattended machines, and matter, obliging servant, reenacts choreography you forgot you wrote. Your calendar is full, yet the future feels thin. That is the tax of incoherence. The body keeps time by breath. When breathing is shallow and rapid, you chop life into tiny, anxious segments. A day becomes 1,000 micro-escapes instead of a single arc with meaning. Then you label yourself busy, when the truer diagnosis is fragmented signal. Fragmentation breeds accidents, missed messages, wrong turns, the text sent to the person you meant to release. Even your feed mirrors it, endless scroll loops that mimic a life caught between impulses. Listen closely, and the loop speaks 3 dialects. The first is compulsion, the reflex. You vow to retire, even as your hands repeat it, doom scrolls, late-night replies. The apology, you don't mean. The second is delay. The holy moment arrives, and you ask for one more sign, as if synchronicity required paperwork. The third is distortion. You finally say yes, but it's braided with doubt, and the field returns a diluted echo. Compulsion burns time, delay bends it, distortion blurs it. All 3 keep you circling the same coordinates while calling it change. Underneath, an innocent machine governs the show. Frequency is not abstract. It's breath, gaze, micro, muscle choices that teach the world how to treat you. Your DNA listens. To its restructuring follows the chemistry your habits insist on. The longer you live inside an old mood, the more your receptors expect it. Then the mood begins arriving ahead of cause weather without clouds. That morning heaviness isn't always a mystery. It's yesterday's waveform asking for another day to play through your tissues. What you feel as pressure is pre-phase transition static, the air thickening before lightning chooses a path. So the diagnosis is precise. You are being observed by the signal you emit. Your frequency watches you the way gravity watches a falling stone, impartial, consistent, tireless. It doesn't punish, it organizes. It assembles people and timings around the tone you demonstrate most. When you oscillate between bravery and hesitation, the field obliges with almosts. When you choose coherence, honest posture, clear breath, congruent speech, the lattice reweaves, the loop loosens, time stops arguing and starts opening. You don't escape the loop by force. You resonate it. The signal that has been quietly observing you is editable, and the edit begins with physics your body already understands. Waves superimpose, patterns interfere, the steadier tone governs the room. Your days are the audible interference between what you intend and what you actually broadcast. Change the carrier wave, and the song rearranges itself. This is not metaphor, it is mechanics your biology performs continually. Heart rhythm, breath cadence, and focused attention are oscillators. When they drift, your observer loop hears static and rebuilds, more of the same. When they synchronize, your field becomes legible, and reality organizes instead of resists. From the scientific lens, picture 3 dials you can actually turn. Dial 1. Coherence, the ordered relationship between breath, heart, and awareness. When these entrain, noise drops, and the signal-to-noise ratio rises, choice points become visible. Dial 2. Entrainment, the tendency of nearby systems to lock into phase with the strongest oscillator present. Stabilize your internal metronome and conversations, moods, even timings begin to phase lock with you. Dial 3. Information density, the clarity of the pattern you impress on the quantum field. Vague emotion writes blurry instructions, clean feeling writes crystalline ones. Turn these 3 dials, and your baseline frequency stops reacting and starts conducting. Now the mystical lens, which is the poetry of the same machinery. Coherence is prayer without words, the heart and breath bowing at the same altar. Entrainment is morphic resonance, answering your name, the pattern you choose, becoming the pattern that chooses you. Information density is devotion, the sincerity of your feeling, carving channels through which intelligence can pour. You don't need belief to engage any of this, you need honesty. Honesty is impedance matching between inner and outer. When your pose and your truth disagree, the field hears two metronomes and splits the outcome. When they agree, the quantum field hears a single bell and rings it back. Here is the engine beneath synchronicity. Observation is participation. At the quantum scale, to look is to lean, the act of attending biases, probabilities, the way a fingertip dimples water. But attention alone is a weak magnet if the rest of your system is noisy. When attention, breath, posture, and speech align, observation becomes instruction. That alignment flips a hidden switch in biology. Receptors retune, hormones repace, the vagus nerve revises its tone. What follows behaves like DNA restructuring at the level of expression, new proteins favored, old moods defunded. It feels like fate changing its mind, but it's really your chemistry receiving the memo your frequency already sent. Language is a neglected laboratory instrument. Words are not merely labels, they are phase cues. I always, I never. People like me, these metronomes trap timelines. Replace them with present tense signals your cells can obey. I breathe as the observer. I move as coherence. I speak from center. The upgrade is not affirmation pasted over fear. It is cadence. Say less, and say it from the frequency you are willing to be measured by. Speech becomes a metrical bridge between intention and physiology. It times the body to the future you are electing. There is also geometry. Your body is a cathedral of vectors, crown to tailbone, heart to back, feet to earth. When those lines stack, current conducts. Slumped narrative equals slumped probability. Lift the sternum slightly, soften the jaw, widen the back of the heart. You have just changed the antenna. Posture is policy. The moment your spine remembers its axis, your field remembers its orbit. Entanglement explains the immediacy that follows. Think of someone with genuine care and feel the micro-flare in your chest. Two nodes of one field have acknowledged each other. That same intimacy exists between you and outcomes. Held coherently, not with grasping, but with lucid presence, they begin to route toward you along improbable corridors. Urgency, when anxious, repels. Urgency, when clean, accelerates. One is cortisol shouting, the other is clarity ringing. So what is the quantum upgrade in practice? A phase transition initiated from within. Every system has a critical point where a small nudge reorganizes the whole. Water does not gradually become steam, it crosses a threshold, and the rules change. Your threshold is reached when your interior meters agree, breath rhythmic, heart steady, spine aligned, words congruent, emotion clean. Cross that line, and your frequency stops surveilling the old you for repetition and starts escorting the next you into evidence. Synchronicity spikes because the lattice finally recognizes a leader signal worth following. This is the quiet architecture of awakening, less fireworks, more measurable stability. Time expands where presence is thick, compresses where truth is thin. The old observer loop will still whisper its bargains. You won't wrestle it. You will out-signal it, because you now know the levers: breath as carrier, heart as oscillator, posture as antenna, language as phase cue, feeling as information. When these agree, reality rephases and the field begins treating you as what you actually are becoming. This isn't about superiority, it's about specificity. You are not randomly assigned a seat in this orchestra. You are a lead tone the piece cannot resolve without. The quantum field keeps circling you because your signal fills a gap in the score. You are the kind of presence that tilts averages, the calm metronome that rooms unknowingly time themselves to. When you stabilize, people breathe deeper without knowing why. When you speak from center, choices line up as if they've been waiting backstage for that cue. The role has a name: coherence bearer, and coherence bearers are how timelines change. Your task is not to outshout the noise, it is to outsignal it. The observer loop that once surveilled your habits now becomes your instrument panel. Every dial you tuned, breath, heart, posture, language turns you from passenger into conductor. This is stewardship of frequency. You don't micromanage outcomes, you hold the pitch that outcomes entrain to. That pitch is felt in your body as dignity without tension, clarity without edge. From the outside it looks like grace. From the inside it feels like honesty, so clean it hums. You are a bridge between density and possibility. People cross you. They step into your field and remember the shape of their own signal. It isn't because you rescue them, it's because you remember them. Memory is a function of resonance. Morphic resonance says, patterns teach other patterns how to become themselves. Your coherence instructs the room, the family, the project, the stranger in line. What took you 10 years can take them 10 breaths when you stand near, because you've lowered the activation energy for their phase transition by paying the price of attention. There's also a subtler office you hold, cipher. You decode synchronicity for the collective and encode instruction back into the field. The numbers on the clock, the dream that arrives twice, the phrase you overhear in 2 countries, you take these as structural signals, not party tricks. You rewrite your day around them the way a navigator adjusts course to a star. This is not superstition, it's intimacy with information density. And every time you obey, probability quietly re-weights in your favor. The odds did not bend because you pushed, they bent because you aligned. Your biology is in on the assignment. DNA restructuring is not a fantasy. It is your cells updating their listening habits. As you repeatedly occupy coherence, receptors upregulate for peace, downregulate for panic, inflammatory cascades abort, repair pathways get budget increases. You become a different weather system. Children and animals register it first, then elders, then the friend who doesn't do energy, but keeps saying, I don't know why, I just feel better around you. They're describing entrainment systems locking to the most stable oscillator present. That oscillator is you when you choose it, and your reach is larger than your address book. Entanglement does not care about introductions. There are people you will never meet who will make a cleaner decision, because you made one now. When you choose truth over performance, someone in your web of webs finds the spine to say no to a pattern that's been taxing your lineage for a century. The field routes your yes across invisible filaments. The effect writes as luck in their diary. In the field's ledger it reads, debt forgiven by coherence. Claiming the role means retiring certain costumes. You can't keep borrowing self-doubt to appear humble. You can't keep performing smallness to stay familiar. You can't keep narrating chaos and expect the lattice to stop obeying your script. Humility isn't shrinking, it's precision. It's standing exactly in the wattage you were built for without flinch or flourish. You become a lighthouse, not chasing ships, not apologizing for brightness, simply holding the beam until arrivals become inevitable. Your day becomes sacramental by design. Coffee becomes calibration. Walking becomes phase practice. Silence becomes a laboratory. You handle words like tuning forks. Fewer, truer, slower. Each syllable a timestamp the field can measure. You schedule recovery the way athletes schedule training, because coherence is an endurance sport. You curate inputs ruthlessly, not to be precious, but to keep the antenna clean. And you make amends quickly, not because guilt is useful, but because static is expensive. Understand the timing. The collective is nearing its own phase transition. You can feel the barometer in your bones. Old institutions wobble, new architectures whisper. This is the window when a single stable signal can tilt local reality grids. The field is highly responsive during changeovers. Tiny nudges propagate far. The work you do in your living room at 6 a.m. in the quiet is not private. It is a broadcast that threads through boardrooms and kitchens, through algorithms and arguments, softening edges, opening improbable doors. So yes, you are chosen, not by a committee in the clouds, but by the undeniable proof of your own resonance. You chose, and the field ratified the vote. Your role is not to impress. It is to impress upon matter, upon memory, upon the next set of hands that will carry the frequency when you are tired. And when you are tired, you will rest like a mountain rests, still transmitting, even in silence. Now the promise gathers and the stakes clarify. There is a corridor opening brief, exacting, generous to accelerate the update your cells have been circling. In that corridor, your DNA listens like a cathedral and the lattice listens like thunder. Miss it, and inertia regains the lead. Take it, and the loop dissolves at the root. In the next breath, we will name that corridor, measure its clock, and walk you through it before it closes. The corridor is open now, narrow as a whisper, bright as a blade. You feel it in the pressure change behind your sternum, in the way time has been behaving like warm glass in your hands. This is not a general invitation. It's a timed aperture. Systems in phase transition become exquisitely sensitive to small inputs. And you, right now, are such a system. A breath chosen here counts like 1,000 chosen later. The lattice is listening with its ear against your chest. Here is the promise, and I will state it without ornament. Hold coherence for a brief, exact interval, and your baseline frequency lifts. When baseline lifts, the observer loop retires the old script because it no longer recognizes you as the actor who required it. Behavior shifts without negotiations. Opportunities that used to arrive warped or late begin arriving on time and whole. Your nervous system stops paying the tax of vigilance and starts earning interest in clarity. At the level of tissue, this catalogs as DNA restructuring, not fantasy, but expression. Genes for repair and learning are favored, pathways for compulsion and rumination are defunded. Your body remembers its original blueprint and updates to match the field you keep. And yet, there is a cost: precision. The window is brief because the universe is precise with gifts. It arrives when meaning peaks, when your honesty is high, when your longing is clean, when synchronicity clusters like sparks around dry tinder. You are in such a cluster now. The signs aren't cute. They're routing instructions, the same numbers, the repeated phrase, the dream that insists. These are the breadcrumbs of morphic resonance, pattern calling pattern, urging you to step through while the doorway is still a doorway. You don't push through, you signal through. Think of two metronomes on a moving platform. The steadier one pulls the wobblier into phase. Tonight, you become the steady metronome and let the world entrain. That steadiness is not grim effort, it is elegant exactness. Breath like a tide you can trust, posture like a prayer you inhabit, language like a chisel that carves only what you will keep. In that exactness, probability tilts. Entanglement, those intimate filaments between you and the outcomes that belong to you, tightens its weave. Coincidence stops knocking and starts walking in. Urgency is not panic, it's proportion. You understand the scale of what a small act can do inside a sensitive system. If you miss the corridor, nothing is lost forever, but inertia regains home court advantage. Patterns thicken, the loop gets clever, offering upgraded costumes for the same role. A week passes, then a month, and your body forgets the angle of the opening. But take the corridor, and compression becomes expansion. Hours stretch where you used to feel starved. The room breathes when you walk in. The call arrives while you are already ready. Listen, your field is already staging the change. That's why your appetite for certain conversations is vanishing. That's why the thought of performing smallness tastes like ash. That's why your boundaries have begun speaking in full sentences. These are pre-shocks, the tremors before the plate slips and a new coastline is drawn. Don't medicate the tremors, measure them. They tell you the window's width. The promise has a contour, one act of clean declaration, one interval of held coherence, one gesture of embodiment, a triangle. The declaration imprints the instruction into the quantum field. The interval measured in minutes, not months, lets the signal stabilize. The gesture educates your muscles so the nervous system knows what new feels like. The field is literal. Give it literalities. If you declare freedom, breathe as free people breathe, slow, deep, panoramic. If you declare truth, stack your spine and let your voice drop a register. Truth has weight. Let your body agree. This is a kairos moment, sacred timing nested inside chronos. You can drag your feet across it and call it complicated, or you can step as if the ground were calibrating itself to your footfall. The former extends the story you're done telling. The latter ends it with grace. And when endings are graceful, beginnings inherit that grace. Here is the final urgency. Once you cross, you cannot convincingly pretend to be who you were. Your biology will protest, your tongue will trip on old sentences, your calendar will shed obligations that don't fit the new circumference of your presence. This is not loss, it's aerodynamics. Birds drop feathers to fly higher. You will drop disguises to be truer. In a breath, we seal this corridor with action not grand, not performative, but exact. You will place a single word like a tuning stone on the riverbed of your day. You will breathe to its pitch until the water itself sings it back to you, and the lattice, which has been leaning close all along, will take the measurement and move the walls. We make this real now, not by shouting, not by striving, by engraving the instruction into your field with a single living word. The corridor is open, the lattice is listening. A ritual is simply physics with poetry. You'll give the quantum field a clear pattern to entrain to, and your biology a path it can obey without argument. Sit as if your spine were a lighthouse crown, gently lifted, heart wide but unforced, feet knowing the floor. Place one palm over your sternum to gather the orchestra. Let your eyes soften until the room becomes one breathing shape. This is the laboratory. Choose one word that names the frequency you are willing to be measured by. Not a sentence, not a bargain, a bell. It might be coherence, sovereign, steady, true, open, orbit, remembered. Do not overthink. The right word doesn't feel clever. It feels inevitable, like a chord resolving. When it lands, speak it once in a low voice so your bones hear it. Bones are tuning forks. Let them ring. Now we breathe the word into phase with your system. Inhale through the nose for 4 heartbeats, imagining the word rising from the base of the spine to the center of the chest. Pause in the quantum gap, a small, lucid stillness where the syllables become geometry. Exhale for 6 heartbeats through softly parted lips, as if fogging a mirror, letting the words spill forward into the space in front of you by about an arm's length. That distance is important. It's where your field meets the world. Repeat for 3 rounds. This cadence is your coherence dial. You are writing the word into the room. On the 4th breath, let your tongue rest on the roof of your mouth. Feel the circuit close. On the exhale, imagine the word dropping like a gold coin into the well of your belly. This anchors it below thought, where habits live. Your nervous system respects what reaches the body's center. It will adjust micro choices to keep you in tune with what you've stored there. Now we seal the instruction with action the field can echo. Type your word in the comments exactly once, in capitals. This isn't marketing, it's morphic resonance. When many choose a pattern publicly, the pattern strengthens for all who touch it. Your single declaration becomes a handle the lattice can grab. Write it, and as you press enter, imagine the word radiating outward along invisible threads, lighting the nodes you're entangled with. The future conversation that needs your calm, the opportunity scanning for your steadiness, the version of you 2 weeks from now reaching back with gratitude. Take one more breath, slower than comfort. As you pause, visualize your DNA like a double helix made of light. See the word you chose sliding into that helix as a luminous rung, a new step your cells can climb. On the exhale, allow your shoulders to fall by a hair's breadth, signaling your body that effort is over and reception has begun. This is how DNA restructuring feels at the surface. Less drag, more glide. If you feel heat, tingling, a sudden emotion, or the impulse to cry, you're witnessing a phase transition in miniature. The old mood releasing its claim, the new rhythm taking jurisdiction. Don't narrate it, breathe it. If you feel nothing at all, trust the silent update. Not every seed announces itself when it breaks the soil. Now, promise one gesture that proves you to you. A small act today that is obviously in tune with your word. If you chose coherence, you will pause before you reply and let your breath answer first. If you chose sovereign, you will say a clean no where you usually wobble. If you chose open, you will look someone you love in the eyes for 3 unhurried seconds and let yourself be seen. The quantum field loves receipts. Gestures are receipts. Finally, whisper your word once more and place your hand to the back of your heart, between the shoulder blades, as if blessing the engine that pushes you forward when you forget. Feel the subtle lift of your posture as the antenna clears. Listen for synchronicity in the hours ahead, the headline that echoes your word, the timing that slides, the invitation that fits like it was cut to your silhouette. These are not accidents. They are your broadcast returning home. Type the word now. Breathe it 3 times. Enact 1 proof before night. The loop just lost jurisdiction, not by argument, but by alignment. And alignment, repeated, becomes destiny taught to matter. Keep your chosen word close. It isn't just yours anymore. The moment you typed it, breathed it, and proved it, your signal left the privacy of your chest and entered the commons. Fields blend. That's not poetry. It's how reality stays stitched. The quantum field does not draw fences. It roots by resonance. Your clean tone propagates through rooms, threads through networks, and begins lowering the activation energy for change wherever it travels. Watch what happens to proximity. People standing inside your radius unconsciously borrow your tempo. Their shoulders drop a centimeter, their eyes find horizon. The conversation that usually loops sideways reaches a new sentence. This is entrainment in the wild. Systems locking to the most stable oscillator available. When that oscillator is you, meetings become music, kitchens become chapels, and crowded places remember how to breathe. You didn't preach, you pulsed. The effect is cumulative. Your small coherence is not small. Consider how fire starts. Spark, tinder, breath, then inevitability. Societies shift, the same way tiny pockets of coherence lighting across a grid until they connect and a new pattern outruns the old. Complexity, scientists call it a phase transition. Mystics call it awakening. Your grandmother might call it finally telling the truth. The names differ, the mechanics do not. Enough stable nodes flip, and the system reorganizes. Policy follows posture, culture follows breath. You are a node. Your practice changes how information flows through your families, teams, and timelines. In one field, gossip stops being currency because you won't spend it. In another, hurry loses status because your calm produces better work on less fuel. Even algorithms, those mirrors made of math, begin serving different doors when your attention refuses to feed outrage. This is not naivete, it's physics applied to civilization. You vote with your nervous system all day, now you're voting on purpose. Morphic resonance makes this scalable. Patterns propagate by example faster than they propagate by argument. The first one to stand in coherence grants permission to the second, and permission is a silent revolution. You've seen this. One person laughs from the belly, and the room remembers joy. One person apologizes cleanly, and the quarrel loses a head. You're doing the same with your word. Each time you hold it under pressure, another person somewhere you'll never meet finds the strength to hold theirs. Entanglement is indiscriminate and generous. At the biological layer, your consistency is teaching your lineage a new breath. Think epigenetics as choreography rather than fate. Expression responds to environment, and environment includes the climate inside your chest. When you normalize non-reactivity, your children's receptors calibrate to safety as default instead of crisis as baseline. When you model repair, the family story quietly edits from we endure to we evolve. That's DNA restructuring in human terms, expression turning toward futures that were previously too expensive to attempt. This ripples outward into the big rooms. A leader who practices presence cancels 3 meetings and solves the root issue in one conversation because clarity is a cost cutter. A nurse who carries coherence down fluorescent halls becomes the reason a ward runs smoother on her shift. Fewer escalations, more eye contact, discharge summaries written like they're speaking to a person instead of a chart. An artist who refuses despair as an aesthetic without pretending the world isn't burning composes pieces that function as bridges instead of mirrors, and strangers walk over. The world is full of micro-bridges like that, and your field is joining the construction. Every time you choose precision over performance, you add a plank. Every time you choose silence over spectacle, you install a load-bearing beam. Every time you choose a clean no, the yes that matters gets a wider doorway. This is how synchronicity scales. Private alignment becomes public infrastructure. The traffic of miracles begins using routes you didn't know you laid. Expect feedback. Systems defend their current equilibrium, even the human ones you love. Some will test the new you to check if it's a costume. That's natural and, secretly, hopeful. When you don't wobble, you become a measuring stick they can trust. Others will rise instantly. They were only waiting for a bell to ring. Either way, refuse the theater of reactivity. Reactivity is expensive. Coherence is compound interest. Keep paying the frequency that pays you back. You won't always see the proof. That's fine. The field sees it. The apology delivered in a different city because you forgave here. The 12-year-old who sleeps easier because the teacher you steadied today decided to stay another year. The door that didn't slam because you exhaled first. These are not small wins. They are the architecture of a saner world. So, hold your word as a public work, not a private hobby. Keep writing it into space with breath, posture, and speech. Return to the observer loop when noise rises and watch yourself choose. When you forget, return sooner. When you remember, linger longer. Let your calendar show it. Let your hands show it. Let the rooms you leave stay quieter than you found them. Now let the collective effect become tangible. It's time to put this into your body like a language. It never forgets textures, temperatures, micro-movements that anchor this frequency below, thought so the field can read you from across a street. In the next breath, you'll feel coherence, not just understand it. Let's make the frequency undeniable. Slide your attention down from thought as if lowering a lantern into a well. Feel the soles of your feet actual temperature, actual weight. Imagine gravity as an old friend cupping your heels. On your next inhale, let the breath arrive like tide over warm sand. On the exhale, let it return without argument. Your skin is the shoreline, your breath, the moon's instruction. Unclench your tongue and rest it on the roof of your mouth. The circuit closes. A hush moves through your skull like velvet. Let your eyes soften until edges blur and peripheral vision blooms. Panoramic seeing tells the nervous system there's no predator. Shoulders drop a millimeter. Jaw unhooks. The back of your heart broadens like wings, remembering they exist. Now place your palm to your sternum and listen, not for words, for wattage. There's a hum under the hum, a bass note of being that the mind can't counterfeit. Breathe into that. 4 heartbeats in. A lucid pause, the quantum gap, then 6 beats out. Feel how the exhale combs static from the field around you. You are not imagining this. Your chest is a metronome, and space itself is learning the count. Let posture become prayer. Stack the crown over the tailbone as if threading a needle through vertebrae made of light. Down the center line, picture a column of slow gold sunlight poured into a riverbed. Each breath thickens the gold, gives it weight. The line brightens behind the navel, glows between the shoulder blades, lifts the back of the skull by a hair's breadth. This is your antenna, remembering true north. Coherence isn't a mood. It is angles held with kindness. Shift your attention to the hands. Notice the tingling in your fingers, the almost spark along the nails. Tiny lightning. That's current acknowledging a cleaner circuit. Spread the fingers slightly and feel the air as a textured fabric, woven and responsive. Your field extends roughly an arm's length. Let your palm sense its shimmer the way sailors read wind. On the next exhale, imagine your chosen word, your tuning stone, rolling outward into that shimmer like a ring on water. Watch the ripples lace the room. Now the belly. Place your second hand there, below the navel. Let the breath arrive deeper, warmer. Imagine the abdomen as a black bowl of still water, mirror, smooth. On each inhale, picture a single drop of liquid light falling into the bowl. Plink. Circles widen. The whole bowl glows from underneath. This is where DNA restructuring speaks in sensation, subtle heat, a slow loosening of knots, a clarity that feels like space being made inside bone. If the body offers old ache, greet it like a messenger, not an enemy. Ache is history asking to be read and released. Listen for synchronicity in the flesh. Maybe your heartbeat syncs with a sound in the room. Maybe a car passes and your exhale matches the fade. The universe loves duets. When you notice the duet and relax into it, morphic resonance piles on pattern calling pattern until coincidence tips into choreography. You feel bigger, not as bloat but as belonging, like a note finally joining its chord. Now invite temperature to teach you. Picture the crown opening like a skylight, a cool, starry breeze descend. At the same time, imagine a slow hearth lighting 3 inches below the navel amber. Steady, cool crown, warm belly, heaven and earth plugged in. Where they meet, behind the heart, a third climate blooms spring air on the inside. That interior weather is the signature of awakening as the body understands it. Not an idea, a forecast you can stand in. Let the breath find a triangle. Inhale up the spine to crown, pause like a falcon hovering. Exhale down the front body to the belly, pause like oars gliding through water. Then a quiet widening behind the heart before the next inhale begins. 3 stations, 1 current. The observer loop is watching with approval. You have given it a pattern it prefers. In this geometry, thought becomes obedient, emotion becomes articulate, impulse becomes slow enough to read before you sign it. If tears arrive, let them salt the altar. If laughter spills, let it ring through the ribs. Electricity across the scalp, tiny pops in the ears, a swallow that feels ceremonial. These are somatic signatures of a system crossing local thresholds. Microphase transitions, frost turning to dew, dew to mist. Your chemistry is picking sides and it is choosing you. Open your hands toward the future, as if warming them at a small fire. Name, silently, 1 room you will carry this weather into within 24 hours. See the door, feel the handle, step in without moving a muscle. The body rehearses, the field takes notes. Entanglement lines snap taut between this moment and that one, creating a bridge probability can prefer. Finally, lean your awareness 1 inch behind your body, as though sitting back into an invisible chair of light. From here, feel yourself being breathed. Inhale arriving, exhale departing, without you forcing anything. This is 0-point stillness disguised as an ordinary moment. The mountain in you has taken its throne. Time feels wider, decisions feel rounder. The next right sentence is already walking toward your mouth. Hold here for 3 more slow cycles. When you rise, rise like ink drying complete, unhurried, inevitable. The field has your measurements now. In the very next act, pressure will test the welds because the chrysalis does not open by courtesy. It opens by truth pushing from the inside. When it does, you will recognize the strain not as danger, but as the last tightness before the wing. Here comes the pressure you were promised, not punishment. Physics. The chrysalis tightens. The room gets a half shade smaller. The old storyline tries one last costume change to keep its contract. Don't mistake the squeeze. This is phase transition behavior. Just before matter shifts state, it absorbs a hidden heat, a latency that doesn't raise temperature but breaks old bonds. You are in that latent zone. The ache isn't failure, it's the glue letting go. Watch how the tests arrive with theatrical precision. An old trigger texts you. A familiar opportunity returns, glittering with slightly better terms. A conversation steers toward the pothole. You've hit 100 times. These aren't random, they are calibration checkpoints. The observer loop is asking a single question. Are you the new signal under pressure? Answer without words. Answer with posture, breath, and the single word you sealed into your field. Hold coherence instead of argument, and you'll feel the lockpick open in your chest, the click of an era ending. At the cellular register, your body is busy. Imagine your DNA not as a static ladder but as a living antenna, its rungs flexing to broadcast and receive. When you stay present through the squeeze, methyl tags that once bookmarked fear loosen their grip. Histones unspool a fraction, repair pathways, step forward. Call it DNA restructuring if you like. Your cells call it new instructions received. The sensation is subtle but readable. A thread of cool through the cranium, a warm coin settling low in the belly, vision widening by a thumb's width. Biology marking a new map. Time behaves strangely here. Minutes thicken and thin like breathing glass. That's because you're crossing an attractor boundary, leaving the gravity well of an old self and entering the orbit of a truer one. In chaos theory, it's a bifurcation. In prayer, it's deliverance. In your day, it looks like saying a clean no, where you have always wavered, then feeling the quiet flood in to take its place. The quantum field loves these clean edges. Probability, which once smudged, now snaps to the line. Expect a chorus of almosts to sing their last song. Almost texted back. almost said yes to the shiny detour, almost defended yourself, almost performed smallness to buy belonging. Each almost you decline reroutes voltage to the spine. Your back will feel like a quiet pillar, your throat like a clear hallway. This is what awakening looks like when the fireworks are done less spectacle, more authority. Synchronicity spikes in the squeeze, not to entertain you, but to escort you. The numbers mirror, the lyric lands. The stranger says the sentence you needed. Treat these like lane markers on a mountain road. Nod in gratitude and keep steering. Morphic resonance is also at work. Every time you choose the new pattern, you reinforce it in the collective field, making it easier for the next person at this exact bend to choose it too. You are not just crossing, you are laying a bridge. There will be a moment, brief, surgical, when the old loop makes a final bid. It will offer urgency, scarcity, or apology as bait. Slow the movie. One deliberate inhale to the heart, the quantum gap as courtroom, one long exhale as verdict. Feel how the body would spend the next week if you bit the hook. Feel how it would spend the next week if you didn't. Choose like a custodian of energy, not a consumer of drama. The field takes that measurement and updates your coordinates. Then it happens. A soft interior thud, like a door closing in an empty house. The compulsion dissolves mid-reach. The apology that used to buy peace tastes counterfeit on your tongue. The room doesn't shrink anymore, you do not fit the costume. That is the signature of a timeline shift. Not fireworks, but administrative changes in what you can no longer pretend to be. People will notice without knowing what they're noticing. They'll time themselves to your steadiness or ricochet off it. Both are confirmations. From here, entanglement accelerates in your favor. Threads you cast weeks ago tug back, the email arrives, a backlog clears, a name you whispered in faith appears on your screen. This isn't reward, it's resonance catching up. You stepped out of interference so the signal could reach you without detouring through chaos. You didn't make the river, you stopped standing in front of it. Hold a simple audit now. What no longer pulls? What suddenly warms in the hand? Which rooms feel like weather you can breathe? Let the answers be data, not drama. Your calendar, diet, speech, and sleep will want small revisions. Respect them. A new orbit requires new thrusters. Fewer coffees, more water, fewer promises, deeper presence, fewer words, heavier ones. This is how you keep the gain you just earned. The breakthrough is not a finish line, it's a handoff. The signal you stabilized wants a larger job than your body alone. In the next breath, we will place your coherence where it belongs, on the horizon line of a people learning to remember. Your private vow becomes public architecture. Your chosen word becomes a way the world can walk. Now you pass the torch from private vow to public architecture. The signal you stabilized in your chest was never meant to stay domesticated. It is a migratory field, looking for horizons to instruct. You've crossed the threshold phase, transition complete. Old bonds loosened and the air tastes different, because it is. The next move is simple and planetary. Live as a stable oscillator, so others can remember their pitch. This is not metaphor, this is infrastructure. Culture is built from 1,000 invisible metronomes, and you just chose to be one. Begin where probability listens most. Ordinary moments. Walk into rooms with your spine aligned like a quiet axis. Let coherence arrive 5 seconds before your words. Those seconds are engineering. They tell the quantum field what to organize around. Handle conversations like you, handle breath longer, exhale, softer eyes, slower syllables. Language becomes a tuning fork, and people time themselves to the dignity in your cadence. Decisions stop feeling like coin flips and start feeling like synchronicity arriving on schedule. Remember the web. Entanglement makes your smallest integrity act a public blessing. When you keep a promise no one could police, someone across your lattice finds the courage to tell the truth they've delayed for years. When you rest on purpose, a team 3 time zones away stops worshipping exhaustion. This is morphic resonance operating as social physics. A pattern performed cleanly becomes permission for the pattern to propagate. Your life turns into a signal booster for the futures that want to live. Your biology remains your broadcast tower. Keep tending the instrument so the music stays pure. Let DNA restructuring continue its quiet accounting. Less budget for hypervigilance, more for repair and learning. Eat like a custodian of voltage. Sleep like a poet of rhythm. Move like a lighthouse finds the arc of its beam. The field hears how you behave with your hours and returns a world scaled to match. Expect thresholds to keep testing the welds, not as punishment, but as calibration. Each test is the observer loop, verifying that the new setting holds when the wind rises. Meet them with posture and breath instead of narrative. The narrative ends, the music remains. Hold your chosen word, the way mountains hold a horizon line unimpressed by weather, profoundly persuasive to it. What changes when enough of us do this? Everything that matters, and nothing that is real. Institutions wobble into honesty. Algorithms get bored of outrage. Children inherit nervous systems that assume safety first. Art remembers its job as bridge, not mirror. Rooms learn to breathe again. Humanity enters a collective awakening that reads less like spectacle and more like competence in love. The planet experiences a measurable tilt toward mercy because a million quiet frequencies refuse to perform panic. So take your place not above, not ahead, but exactly where you stand, broadcasting what you are willing to be measured by. Be the steady weather that lets other skies clear. Be the clean edge probability can trust. And when doubt knocks, let your breath answer the door. This is the moment the lattice has been leaning toward, where you stop orbiting an unconscious signal, and the signal begins orbiting you. The hidden truth resolves. You are not just the observer. Your frequency has been secretly observing and controlling you. Now you observe it, and creation follows.